Dorje Chang Ankara Dorje Chang Tene 다 쩌도 단다 드링가기 값이 해야 돼. 처제 진비게 맹어 임바제 다 대야 찌르다 다 단다 안도 따르듯이는 조부송지 좀 된대지 공부 송어 도지티 빠따르듯이는 초공으로 단 타르투 근데부 톱고게 와래 레라 타르투 근데부 단 초공으로 효나요 랑 tene zobu songji jamdende ji kompong topa yin na yang rang te ta te la yen ting ki cha karin nang ge yore se na pong to ge yen ting ni sung ge yore la pong wa ge on de se na nyen mong pa tong chi ta ngarang so le nyen mong pa tong nom to rak pa mang bo ye pa ten zo hien ne pong wa te la pong wa pong sum so pa shu ju che ta tene ta te pang ne ndrebu kari thogi yore se na jian me pa rabu ma yin pa tene che ta wa to jin ye pa jin bi yi hi pu song so pa to pa rin jor wa yin be chen na to pa pong song so pa te pong to ge yen ten na ba ni dang dang pa je thop gu ge yore ta te pong to ge yen ten na ba ni bo te to pa se be ge thap ti na ne dang bo to pa pong song so pa to pa la pong pong song so pa to gu ge yore pong pong song so pa te kan la te ne thog ge yore se na 저 다음에 이도 그 히라라테네 토기 와래 주동 공사가 다음에 받는 바니 당보 투성 그거네 때나 밥되니 대지에서 제타와 인도 되니 또 능성도 또 감니 난도 저다 될라테네 되니 다도 근데고 토기 와래라 되니 대다 지당 근도 따르듯이나 주담지 돈이 지는 발라 때나 파기 와래 Rete yenaya songha doje tipiga onda se pato chaji chimbi onda se na ta senji tento cedar che ne senji ne lu ke tento gomte ngote pa imbe cherna ta te tene dangwa te chepartam papa imba cheita tene dangwa te chepartam papa imba chomda yung ma se ta khasen shuba yendo tuji je onda se na tene yiram jelai cherem gombata tene ta tegendo zoram gambala tene shaja chimpo gamna yong digi ware la ya shaja chimpo changba gamna yong digi ware re te yina ya ta tanda cherem gambala sopa la 인지 민지 념도 처제 진부기 념린제 매나 민디반다고 용기요라 티처나 처제 진부디 기로 가르치게 요라 junsin 티처나 다리 처제 진부 고르 교주 중앙에 나랑 깔바상 보죠라 드니 제nombe장 담비추라 이 대바당 이치 나와라 지당 투지 지켜주려라 다동도 대바당 이치 나네 되네 다디 담비 추디 셈베게 처도 근로송 준주도 센지네 마준로 난 다동냠베 센지 당지 펜바다 대와라게 처도 되네 송호도 지티파 께당 대나네 믹살도 되네 차자 침베 맹어 된주 생게 sombe 근로송 준주도 센지 네생나로지 휴지
Today we have instructions on Mahamudra, and in these instructions from Mahamudra, whether you say, as we say in the Sutra tradition, you say the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood, or in the secret mantra Vajrayana, we say the supreme siddhi or the supreme accomplishment. Whatever you call it, whether you call it the supreme siddhi or whether you call it the state of perfect Buddhahood, what is it that we need to achieve? We need to achieve the two qualities of the perfect abandonment and the perfect realization. So the perfect abandonment, that means that we have many afflictions and many coarse thoughts that go through our mind. When those have all been quelled, that is the perfect abandonment. And when we have that perfect abandonment, then what is the result of that? The result is not that it is just blank nothingness. Rather, we have the two wisdoms, the wisdom that knows the nature of all things and the wisdom that knows all things as they are. This is and so in this way, because of the perfect abandonment, we achieve the perfect realization. And so this is the method for doing so. First, in order to achieve perfect realization, we need to first have the perfect abandonment. And that perfect abandonment comes through the two different types of selflessness. It comes through realizing the selflessness of the individual and the selflessness of phenomena. And so first we need to listen to and contemplate them. Then we need to practice them and meditate upon them so that we can directly perceive them. And when we have directly perceived them, then we need to be able to truly manifest them and in that way achieve the ultimate result. In terms of the sutras, it is said that all phenomena are empty. But in the secret mantra Vajrayana, in particular Mahamudra, we look instead primarily, we focus our efforts on our mind, and through meditating upon that and gaining recognition of the nature of mind. And so these are the most wonderful superior instructions. Not only that, it is as I explained yesterday. When you are doing elaborate sorts of practices, such as the creation stage practice of the Yidam deity or the completion stage practices of the deity, the Mahamudra goes along with this. It is okay to practice it along with it. Or it's also fine to just practice Mahamudra on its own. But when you do the creation stage practice of the deity, if you don't also have the Mahamudra, it is not okay. So you absolutely have to. It's important that you have the Mahamudra along with it. And so I feel for that reason that it is a very good fortune for me to be able to speak about the subject of Mahamudra this morning. And also, I would like to thank all of you who have come here out of great faith and devotion. You have great faith and devotion, so thank you very much for that. So please have even more faith and devotion. And as you listen to these teachings, please listen to them with the motivation of bodhicitta, the motivation that it is in order to help all sentient beings, all our mothers who is limitless as space, and to bring them all to happiness. That is the reason why you want to practice and listen to these instructions on the secret mantra Vajrayana and the profound Mahamudra in particular. And so please, with this motivation of bodhicitta, listen to these instructions.
Tene ta tela ya ta chitang ga tang huma ga kapsul yin na 다 샤제지 맹화 된소 히로 요 단다 자 아메리카 쇼를 히로 요 말이데 이나야 딩송 다 제르도 조부송지 좀 된데지 신라 대나네 땡진지 지부 제버진 넘지 두제도 만랑라 땡네 다 단다 샤제지 뭐게 제 된소 다 제nom바 감각에 이제 조조 대야 샤제지 뭐게 맹화 다외제를 되네 대견도 단다 샤제 침부게 티 되네 단다 제고바 온주도 진세베 샤제 침부 티 제바 내단 잔소 라소파 다텐데 인디케토라 조르네 단다 제나베게 제 초조 예바데 베 메시베 되네 칼바상 보탐 템바 중화 레라 되네 다 텐조라 제나 베 펜토 침부 예바레 되네 대야 단다 Yankama Bakunti Chuduba Tangbo, Ta Americala, Tambichusum Capso, Ta Lomatsu Hune, Tanda, Nuchupala Pembig, Ta Donga J, Inji Ketula Jurna, Kandi Jurna, Ta Pento Chewa, Yoris, a country capsula, Ta Kong Tuji don't tell me to Chumala Tene, the Nichaja Chimpigon, Davis, the Jurna Pay, Yapore. Tende sunga la tene teacher na tene chaja chimbe gomram dawe zerte tanda pe sabji jeba yapo yore la tene te jawa kama pa tuje to melo yo ja chimbo yo jire tene te tanda se chojo yo je gombo pa trahinam jar ke song la ta te 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 ja che tene se mato na ya ta ngedan janso tong tene chukun su la sopa mangbo yo la ta tenzo la ziju ko kap jong na pe rang la chewa pento chimbo nyomlen la pemba tene hira ya po te gongren tenzo korem yendo la pe salvo yo la tene te yendo duba gong de se na ta tanda kama basum barang jung do ji ze pe chaja chimbe melom 다 되네 대 세도주 진주네 진제베 샤자 진베 melong 컨트롤바 텐조베 고름 만로와 고름이 야고 냠린 탑데와 melom 제나용 드바 되네 트이 제나용 드바 베 펜토 침보 히도 요레라 텐조 제나나 베 펜토 침보 다다티 갑슬라 되네 베나 단다 대북 총혼론의 제 초초라고 이어받대 배메시베 깔바상 부중화래라 당마로 니효 순주 예주가 갑라 근데 무슨 잘로 고갑다고 요마래대 이나야 단다베 깔바상 부기도 정요화래라 근데 된수 색나나 되네 단다베 가르침보래 다 드링게 가서를 해야 돼 뱅그린 점벌상 분세베 다 단다 도진 총통마 더바두두 데 교기나 드니 다 대야 뱅그린 점벌상 분세 상대 신라 체버지 드니 지당 그 체념라 단 사바인 비치나 베 벤토 침보 용들에 섬바다고리
Back in the old days, it was kind of hard to get instructions on Mahamudra. There really weren't very many of them here in North America. But because of the blessings of the Buddha and because of the compassion and the blessings of all the beings who uphold the teachings, now there are instructions on Mahamudra that you can read at any time you like. There are the moonbeams of Mahamudra, the ninth Karmapa Wangcha Dorje's long text, The Ocean of Certainty, and many other texts that have been translated into English. And so you can read these and study them at any time you like, and this is an incredibly great fortune for you. If you read these and study these, it's very, very helpful to do it. When the 16th Karmapa came to North America and first taught the Dharma, many students asked him, what would be the most helpful instruction for us to translate, the most helpful instruction for Western people? And His Holiness replied that it would be best to translate the moonbeams of Mahamudra. It is profound, it is very vast, and also very wonderful, helpful text. And so because of the blessings or because of the aspiration and compassion of the Gyalwang Karmapa, it has been translated into English. And so now there is this Moonbeams of Mahamudra by Gampopa Tashi Da Tashi Namgyal. And so you can read it. It's in the you can read it at any time. It is a large book. So if you can't read something that big, then you can read a shorter text. You can read the Ninth Karmapa's Ocean of Certainty, or an even shorter text would be the Pointing Out the Dharmakaya. And so when you read these, this is helping yourself on your own. It's pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps in the English idiom. And it's helping yourself on your own. These are all the present the order and the sequence of practice well and easy to understand and very clearly. If even these are too long for you, then for the short one, you can also read the third Karmapa's Aspiration Prayer of Mahamudra. And then there's the Situ Chugyi Junne's commentary on this aspiration of Mahamudra. And these are wonderful because they present the order of practice, the sequence, and everything very clearly. And so they're very helpful and beneficial texts to read. You can read them either as, you can read the aspiration prayer as just being an aspiration. You can read it as being instructions on Mahamudra. However you want to read it, it's fine to read it that way. And all of these texts are available in your bookstore. So you can go to the bookstore and you can read the books, you can buy the books. And so it's really extremely fortunate that you can actually get these books yourself. This is extremely fortunate. 20 or 30 years ago, you would have had no chance, no opportunity to get these books. And so now to have the opportunity to get the books and to read them and study them is incredibly fortunate. So it's very important to do so. So today we have a short commentary on the Vajradhara Lineage Prayer by Pengar Champo Sampo. And this is this prayer by Pengar Champo Sampo has great blessings. It's very few words, but the meaning is extremely profound and it's very helpful.
Tene tateya pentu chimbo yebala tene tanda pedo tarwe kapso tene jangkama pedensa tanda surfuta tene tejendo sudrumboji densa palpung laso pe kaji pedensa tamchi tujundo hyamden nange warela tene tejendo tedengi tio pomo tamchi cha tujundo kandan dembe kapso sondepte chegi ware te chigubi junsin te tachitang tanda yapo dan sabo yapa jaitan te tsangda yomaji shinla chimbo yore shinla chimbo yepi junsin te kandi chiri se na pengaran jambal zambo te tene changa namso simoto la tene lo mambo la druba ja chaja chimbo gam ne topa ngandu churbe kapso tene sonde te song na ware la teacher na shinla chepar chin yore changa namso simoto la gam jabe kapso tene chitang changa namso simoto te ganka chakwa cho tene ta te titai nin ro ta ti namso gi chila tene linching chung chung che tela re chung chung che tela drupu je ya pa da tela yugi yorela tene chika so te chakwa hyondro kapsala tene me suya pando ya to chong ya yo marela teacher na hindo emba yore hindo emba imbe cherna gonyong nin la sembe kapsala pe pento chimbo yore re te yinaya kapkala tene namhi ge chebar la tenen so la ta chapa ma sha pa yung yore la so la chapa ma sha na tene lo ni tende la chapa ma sha na pe kule khabo chwa per na gamchin khahi tena pe ne pe kule khabo chwa lo nyu ya yore ta ti kapsala tene te changanom so semoto la trotong lusunda wo yo samare la ten chakwa ten ro di cha charu ma ji na pe kale kabo yung bi yore re te yena ya pengran jambal zambo lo mambo yo ne kona so kangan da bo kanya mepa tene pe gomnyam ni chepar chin chungare ta te kangal mepa te junsin khana te ni chungare se na khahi ge tene yula ki do ten ju gen so apol ne ta kangal kungal kanya ma jung wa imba khahi ge sauna ta tingen zen ji se la solne tini ta tela tini kungal kaya majongare dor na kon ta lodong mambola tna yudu kungal kaya majongare la kungal kaya majong tu ne ta kama pa tupan tonga ten ten kitsani tope dongwa tenzo nyamyi na nyamyi tar chen ne toba chebar jingan do churbe kapsu la tini jangwa kama pa kuntrin dambege tsawe lama tabala chur tini te kapsu sinla ke ten la Dorje Chang Tungma sonde de suwan zepa yinpe cherna tini sinla chebar jing tsai nyunyu yepa la ten ne ko debo yepa la ten ne tini ngara tsope Dorje Chang Tungma sonde de tsa chenpo nangi ware.
Because it is such a beneficial prayer to recite, the Gyalwang Karmapa has this prayer recited in his seat at Sorpo Monastery. And also the seated Rinpoches have all had this prayer also recited at their seat in Palpung. And in basically all of the great monasteries of the Kagyu, the Karma Kagyu, we recite this prayer. Not only is it in the monasteries, but also the faithful lay people, laymen and lay women, also recite this prayer when they do their own practices. And the reason why we all recite it is because it is very beneficial. The meaning is very clear, it's very good, and it's got a lot of benefits, a lot of blessings. So why does it have so many blessings? Well, the reason is because the author, Pengar Jambal Sampo, wrote this after spending many years practicing on the island of Semado in the northern sky, or Namso, Sky Lake. And so when he developed his realization, he wrote this, and there are the great blessings because of this. So the northern Sky Lake is a place where there is an island in the middle of the lake. And in the winter, when the lake freezes, then you can go out to that island. There is a mountain there, and then there's a cave in there, a retreat cave in there. And that's where Pengar Jambal Sampo spent many years. So you go out there in the winter, and then in the spring, the ice melts and no one can go out. It's a very isolated place, and because it's so isolated, it is very good for the practice. Now, sometimes, if the ice doesn't freeze over, if the lake doesn't freeze over in the winter, then you might have to go a year or two or more without anyone coming to bring you in any supplies. Like there are some stories of some great masters who had great difficulties out there because no one is able to come and bring them any supplies. It seems that in Tibet there was no real tradition of going by boat. But for Pengar Jambal Sampo, he actually had no difficulty of that sort. He spent many years on the island practicing meditation without any difficulty. He practiced his meditation. Now, the reason for this, some people say that it was all the deities, the local spirits, who provided him with food. Some people say that he ate the pure food of undefiled meditation. In any case, however it was, he was able to spend many years on the island without any difficulty at all. While he was there, he practiced the instructions that he had received from the sixth Karmapa, Tongwa Dünden. He practiced them, he developed realization in them, and made the result of it manifest. And then he became the root lama for the seventh Karmapa, Chudai Gyatso. And as a support for the blessings at that time, he wrote this prayer, the Vajradhara Lineage Prayer. And so it is a prayer with very few words. It's easy to know and understand, and this is why we consider it to be so important.
Tene tate tanda tujundu henden ana ya yapu yorela te zamdo imazi henden no kapsula tenda tenzu salpo ten tangune nyamslembe kapsula ya pento chembo yungu yorela ngune nguye gom maina ya tujundu tati chidente yapoje train to na yang pe pento chimbo yore la tene tati chik tanje on the se na chitang desin rabo som yore la tambo ta chitang som de tan chepar ke namba tene 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 jipa lama tongji kandi sine shoja chimpi mengo te jipa imba te temba jay tang tene te ji shoja chimpi dongo te tanda shaloka ye go ne ten tene te ji su melam ja ta tende nang yore la te na ne tangbo ta chepar jepa sena yang ra sorwan depa shena yang ra tene ta tanda jipe lama tenzu ke loju sunga ina yang rong jipa chetra sunga ke tsul sunga ina yang rong te tangbo ta dojen chongchen telo naro tong marba mala chuje gombo pa la sopa sunga jepa re la tene te yang tangbo dojen chang se du ta kandi jiri se na tene te yang ta chitang ke ngaranso nangpa sanji pe chuge jipate kani chungwa re se na daja ke tenpa zopu sunji jamding de shachi jarbo le chungwa ji re la tene shoja chimpe dangwa te tene dojin chungni jipa inba te kandi ndabu je ina samba ndabu yung sikre te ina ya ta te sanji ke ngowo te chikpa re ngowo te chikpa inbe junsen te kandi jire se na cherdo tanda sanji je ngowo la chuko, longko, turko se kusam je nang yo yore la tene te yang chu chiko se du ta chitang ta yi kondu hipa yendo la nyamlin tar chene pongtu ke yenten tar chimbe to yi hi je ngowo te la sanji chu chiko hyogo yore la te zuk je namba la yo ma re ta te tabu ke pongtu ke yenten tar chene tene sanji chu chiko top ne tene shali kandi nangre ta tela longje ndabo kandi yore se na tene jeyong mepa rebe se na jeyong mepa mare jeyong mepa in mayin pa zongda yung maze dorja senjing tongji jizing kowan tab ma tongka parto tene jeyma chi pa chi yunga yore la tene jeyma chi pa ti chuku ke ngono ni nang tuki yore be se na nang tuki yore mare chu chiko te ta tuki hi jengo kona re la ta te la tene jengo tembe ke chedu zu chiko yi namba tengi yore zu chiko yi namba tendu te la zu chiko te ya durja susu le takwa tang le mada pa ka nongcha la tene zu chiko namba ni tengi yore la zu ten ताति दुर्जा ले तोपा साला युपे सोंचु संबातां जी तोपा थार संबे के चरतो तेने कांडी तेंगे योरे से न सांजी लोंजे जोपको से तेने ताति तुजोंदो तंबे छु छेपर तम पबा ह्यादा संने तेने छु चंको कोरने सोंचु संबातां जी जोप सोंजी जमदिन दे छु कोंपों ला कपर से पाइन बे न लोंजे जोपको ह्योगे योरे 다 대지에서 들자 마다 봐 통지지 롱지 조부거든 잘고 나요 잘 두고 요 말에 대 강기체든 잘게 요 말에서는 소소 소술 달래다 냐모 버드바 마다 봐 임베처나 무슨 잘 두고 요 말에 라다텔 드네 상지 짓고 락바다 보지 텐데 손지 트르고 땡게 요 알아 tene dorja kongla kondru ke go ne tambe chu sang tambe chu chung ko lo ko ka sa la yo dorja le takwa ta ma da pa namba na cho pa ye pa la tene ka ka la thong den se ne ta je te nam yar thang ge che do nguni ge tan da mai be chu ya sang ka ka la ngi den sang ne thar tu ge ta che ta wa yin da yo sang 다 딘데 나와텔라 상진 초고트고 세게요라 다저 그때 바조부 송지 좀 딘데데 단지tin 제 컴 다바라 컨트롤하레베스나 마레 단다 dorja 마다바 당가란 순지틴달라 컨트롤하레라 지틴달라 컨트롤 갑슬라 dorja 레 다과용 요아레 마다바용 요아레 상지 좀 딘데라 대바 용킨 요아레 대바 멘킨 요아레 다텔라 콘라 콘들 그 저도 tempa 임베츠나 상진 초고트고 효게 요아레라 tene ta tanda teta kusum ga nam ga yore
And so if you recite this prayer, it's very helpful to recite it every day or continually. And especially if you think of the meaning as you recite it, remember the meaning. This is going to be very helpful for your practice. You can even recite it at times or remember the meanings at times when you aren't actually practicing, and it'll also be extremely beneficial for you. Now, in terms of the meaning of the words of this text, generally there are three different sections to the text. The first part is a supplication or an homage. It's like the list of how the Mahamudra was passed down, the lineage by which it was passed down. And then there is the section on the actual instructions of Mahamudra, in which there are 4 stanzas. And then following that, there is an aspiration. And so first we have the homage. You can call it an homage. You can call it a supplication. You can call it a description of how the instructions of Mahamudra were passed down. And so this begins with the words, Great Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa, and Marpa, Milarepa, Lord of Dharma, Gampopa. And so here we start out saying, Great Vajradhara. And when we say Vajradhara, what do we mean by that? Well, in general, when we think, well, where is it that where is the source of the lineage of the Dharma of the Buddha? Where does it come from? Well, generally, we would have to say it comes from our teacher, the complete and perfect Buddha, the king of the Shakyas. But when we say this Mahamudra prayer, we say it comes from Vajradhara. So why do we say it comes from Vajradhara? It's possible that we might have a doubt. We think, why is it Vajradhara and not from Shakyamuni? Well, actually, the Buddhas are one in essence. And the reason that they are one in essence is that the essence of the Buddhas is the 3 kayas, or the 3 bodies of the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. And so when we say the Dharmakaya, then this is the body of qualities. When you have when you've brought your practice to its ultimate result and achieved the qualities of perfect abandonment and perfect realization, then these are the qualities of the Dharmakaya, the body of qualities. But that has no form. And so when you have these qualities of complete abandonment and complete realization, then you achieve the Dharmakaya, but then how is it that you actually act? How is it that you can actually sort of enjoy or make use of that state? When you achieve the Dharmakaya, does that mean that it's just blank nothingness, that there's nothing there at all? It doesn't mean that. Not only is there not nothing, in fact, the Buddha still has the wish to perform activity, to tame all sentient beings, as long as there are sentient beings and as long as there is samsara. But is this something that the Dharmakaya can do? It can't. The reason is that the Dharmakaya is just the essence of the wisdom mind of the Buddha alone. And so for that reason, the Dharmakaya, there are also the form kayas, the 2 form kayas, the form bodies of the Buddha. And so for the form bodies, there are different students, some of whom who have pure perception and some of whom who do not have pure perception. And for that reason, there are 2 different types of form bodies. For those bodhisattvas who reside on the bodhisattva levels, they have pure perception. So which do they see? They see the Sambhogakaya, which is the body of the Buddha that appears to these bodhisattvas and turns the wheel of Dharma, teaching them the complete and perfect Dharma of the Mahayana, always teaching these bodhisattvas the Mahayana Dharma to bring them to the state of Buddhahood. So that is the Sambhogakaya. But for those beings with impure karmic perception, even if they wanted to see the Sambhogakaya, they wouldn't be able to. The reason they're not able to is because they're obscured by the obscurations and by their karma. So they're not able to perceive the pure Sambhogakaya form. So for that reason, the Buddha also has a coarse body, the Nirmanakaya form, that appears in whatever manner is necessary in order to tame whoever needs taming. And so whether the people who need to be tamed have pure or impure perception, whether they need to be taught the guiding meaning or the definitive meaning. There are some beings who are not ready to hear the ultimate meaning, and so you teach the guiding meaning. That isn't quite necessarily the entire truth, but brings people to the point where they can understand the whole truth. Sometimes you teach those with the right facilities the definitive meaning exactly as it is. And so these are the activities of the Nirmanakaya. And so our teacher, the complete and perfect Buddha, the Buddha Shakyamuni, was he someone who appeared only to those beings who have pure perceptions? No, he was not. He appeared in this world, in this impure world, and he appeared to beings with pure perception, beings with impure perception, to people who had faith and to people who did not faith. And he taught in every sort of different way. And so he is what we call a supreme Nirmanakaya. And so this is the presentation of the three Kayas of the Buddha.
Tene ta tela longji zobu ko ta chu ko zobu ko ni kui namba ta te pare de na to yi hi jingo ti ji pare la to yi hi jingo tene chu ko dojin chung hyo ge yore chu ko dojin chung de dorja ta ba tham ji jingo la ko zub ji namba la temba te la long ko dojin chung hyo ge yore la long ko dojin chung de ta ta ndang aran so ge hyal tang ge ngola ti ga ba kun do ngombo tene longji zobe chalu jen shani ji doji to trbo nortab san san ba ta te ta bala longku doji chung hyogi yore longku doji chung don sonji hyacha to ba ni ta chok ji longji zobe ko don jen chok to ko re de to yi hi jing o ti ji ba chuku doji chung go ti ji ba re la teacher na tanda tene durja le takpa tenju ta tanda chuk tu ko jal we ta tanda ko nyang ni linde ni jawe ko ka me pa tinde ge tene durja le takpa tam ji longji zu ko de jal ge yo re la sala yu be chong chu sem pa tam ji longji zu ko de jal ge yo la teacher na ta song ho doje ti pe tai ne truba top tu chin te lo pe chung long ku doje chung jal ne tini chaja chim bu ngu dup tong chen la tin zo te kar top ne tini xian ba yin be cher na tini doje chung hi sung re la ta ti chu ku doje chung long ku doje chung song ji tu ku sha cha to ba som che par me ba ta bu ji re tene ta te ta ge dong te tu chin te lo pe tene khong ge nyamlin thar chen dang bo ne tu ba to bi ji bi che par chin ba la tene ta dong ten so tho pa re la ta ti lo ma te lo na ro ta se du tene ti lo ma te na ro pa re na ro pa te ta dang bo tene khe pa chin bo je ta ti kapsula jagar ge yula tini densa chempo namba sanji pe chu chetan te nang ne mixal to tini tanda ndoi tempa tang songo doji tipe tempa chasan xiepa tong drupa nigi go ne targe yepe ke densa chempo te pal nalin rai zula kondo betramala hili zula kong namba nyi chungwa re la tini te tini chango sung penda tasi kepa chenpo nangre kepa chenpo nangwe kapso tini yehi jen khandro me long teni tini ta chirange tanda kepa tang kepa changpa ge tini thartu kundrepo thogu mare sta dhyanto tini te thogu mare te thopar sepa la mengo chepar chen gugi yore la mengo chepar chen te ta tanda tuchin te lopa mato yo mare sonne long tempa la tini kong te lopa chol kapsala namtar njal na pe kawa mambo chi tini te lopa njal ni jo tekar dangwa te tempa ma impa tini tanda kawa mambo chi ne kawa chi mugu chepar chi na teni tini topa ngan tu chur ne tini narupi chaji chimpi topa te top chen tini tampi chu chi me nga ten so topa re.
So we have the two bodies, the Sambhogakaya and the Nirmanakaya. In terms of the bodies, the kayas are separate, but they are the same in essence of the wisdom mind. That the essence of the wisdom mind, that is what we call the Dharmakaya Vajradhara. And so with the form bodies, when this Dharmakaya Vajradhara appears as a form body, then it appears as the Sambhogakaya. And this is what we call the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara. This is what we draw in paintings. When you see the blue Buddha, who's blue in color, holding the Vajra bell crossed at his heart, that is the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara. And so that and the Sangya and the Buddha Shakya Tupa are all both the same in essence. In the essence of the wisdom mind, they are the same. The essence of their wisdom mind is the same in being the Dharmakaya Vajradhara. Nowadays, after the Buddha Shakyamuni has passed away, those beings with pure perception are unable to meet him because he's passed into nirvana. And so those with pure beings, those bodhisattvas on the bodhisattva levels, therefore when they see the Buddha, they see the Sambhogakaya Buddha, the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara. And so for us, there is the great master Telopa, in the secret mantra Vajrayana master Telopa, who actually saw the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara. He received the siddhi, or the accomplishment of Mahamudra, received the blessings directly from the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara. And so that is why it says here at the beginning, great Vajradhara. And so in this way, the Dharmakaya Vajradhara, the Sambhogakaya Vajradhara, and the Nirmanakaya Shakyamuni, there's no difference between them. And so these instructions that Telopa practiced them. Of course, he was first a great being in order to receive the instructions, then he practiced them and achieved the ultimate result. And his student was Naropa. Naropa was first a great scholar. Now, at that time in India, there were great monastic seats that taught the Dharma in general, and in particular that taught the sutras and the secret mantra Vajrayana. In these seats, they taught them not only through the tradition of explanations, but also through practice. And these two greatest seats were these monasteries of Nalanda and Vikramashila. So Naropa was the scholar who guarded the northern gate. And when he's guarding the northern gate, there was a wisdom dakini who came to him and made a prophecy. She said to him, "You will not achieve the ultimate result merely through being a scholar and through explanations. In order to achieve the ultimate result that will not bring you to the ultimate result of Buddhahood. You need to have these special instructions. And those special instructions, the only one who has them is the great master Telopa." And so Naropa went to look for Telopa. And when you can look at his life story, and you look at his life story, you can read about all of the different difficulties and hardships all the trials he went through. Then when he finally found Telopa, he didn't immediately receive the instructions from him. Instead, he still had to go through even more trials and hardships. And finally, he received the instructions, developed the realization. And so, in this way, Naropa received the instructions on Mahamudra from Telopa.
Tene ta te tabo Telopa ta tanda Naropa namba nipote jagar ke tutorela jagar ke yoto temba perware tene ta te jeso Naropa loma marpa lota ne tene pedo tarwarela pedo tangbo tarwate ta marpa lota wa se ta kong jagar la pe jagar ne menga tongwa tenzo hyu dangwa tenzo sen ne tene peki to jor tene pe to temba pel tene naung ke cherna marpa loza wa hyogo re la tene marpa loza loma te tanda malare pata malare pe loma te gombo pare la ta te ka jitembe tsuji namba som ta re tene ta te ya tanda kon namba som te tene ta te kuchi ge ne tang da bo te mandawa som yo are re la tene te kon namba ge datap da bo te ge tene ngaran so tambe chu nyom selen shaja chimbe mengo ten zu nyom selen na tene ta tanda mesi ge ne tang da bo kande yina yo nyom selen ruwa te ma tu muguba maimba kantariya nyom selen topa tene teya perna marba loza tabu je yana ta chitang ten je ong de na chimbe ten da bo ngabwe ten da bo je la tene khon la chang mi ya pa long je tong pan jori yong ya pa tene se mang bo ya pa ta ten de chung re la tene te yin na ya ten khon ka dang wa ten so sin nyam se ye ne cho gong do top tene tomo maimbe treto chepar jinchu gongu do tope ke tangan de churba re la tene te daran de kandi ji yo re se na ngaran so chimbe ten jin shi tene longje la longje yendo choje chimbe mengo nyamle na na ya digi yo pa ro ta tende ten na wa re tene ya me yendo la tene samsul mandawa tende yuwa la samsul mandawa tene te ta tambi chu nyam lembe kapsul la kawachi tene trumi gi chepa tene hachang tene deji longji la chayin mepa tabu gu sambadaba ta tende yuwa la te tabu siya na ya tambi chu gi nyam lembe tar samba yungi yuwa te tembe gi cherdo tene jesun mela repa tene shadal trumi tene se ku nor longche la sopa la chakin pucham me pa se ne tene ko se te rubi jansin chau drabu la sopa la yo kor loma ten zo yo te tar do se ne chong no wa de la tene te tabu ta trumi gi chepa na tup na te chom ma do na kasi tutu na na ya tene te tambe chu nyang selen bala pento chempo yung yo re
Both Telopa and Naropa were Indian masters, and they primarily were in India. Then there is the student of Naropa named Marpa the translator, who spread the teachings in Tibet. And so we call him Marpa the translator because first he went to India, he learned the Indian languages, he received the instructions, he practiced the instructions, and then he translated them, brought them back to Tibet, and spread them in Tibet. And so this is why we call him Marpa the translator. His student was Milarepa, and Milarepa's main student was Gampopa. And so these are the three masters whom we call the three forefathers, or the three crown jewels of the Kagyu lineage. Now, when we look at these three, they all had very different ways that they led their lives. And so they give us different sort of examples of how we can lead our lives. They show us that no matter what our lifestyle is, we can still practice Mahamudra. There's nothing that contradicts any. There's no contradiction between Mahamudra and whatever sort of lifestyle we choose. For example, there is Marpa the translator. Marpa was a householder. He had a wife. He was a householder and sort of a tantric practitioner. He had a wife, he had children, he had possessions, he had wealth, he had a lot of food. But he received all the instructions, he practiced all the instructions, and by practicing the instructions, he was able to achieve the ultimate siddhi of his practice. He was able to show the special signs, the particular signs of the result of the practice. And so what is it that we can learn from looking at his example? What we can learn from looking at that example is that we can still be householders and enjoy all the luxuries of living in the house and still practice Mahamudra. It's okay to do that. But there are some people who sort of think differently. They have different ways of thinking about things, and they feel like they just really want to devote themselves to Dharma practice and are willing to go through a lot of hardships to do that and to live in a very simple lifestyle. They want to live without any attachment at all to wealth or goods. And if you do that, you can also achieve the ultimate result through doing practice. And the one who shows us this is Milarepa. Milarepa had a very simple, unelaborate lifestyle. He didn't care a whit about food or clothing or anything else. And he spent all his time in mountain retreats, in caves and mountains, practicing. Then gradually he gathered a retinue of students. And so if we can practice in the same way as Milarepa, then that is wonderful. But even if we can't practice exactly the same as Milarepa, but can do it somewhat similarly, as much as we are able to, then it is extremely beneficial.
Tene ta te yendo sumba te ta je gombo parela je gombo pa te ta tanda ya tanda marba loza ta mlare pale kusige ne ta te ta te pa tene te rab de chong de tene rab de chong te de rab de chong te la ta ti chitang ngaran so shaje chimbu nyam ni na ke khahe tene te rab de chong imba Rabdu Changni, Ta Sanji Chamdindi, Jisun Juk, the Rabdu Changu, Gung, Tende Yorella, Te Yopala Tene, Te Tabuga, Shaja Chimpidong, Yamlin Nana, Tenin Digri, Senan Digri La, Ten Dong Yamlin Nana, Tatu Pindev Togi Yore, Tinti Pendabote, and the Jigombo Parella, Teniji Gombo Pate, Tambo, Rabdu Chung, Ten Imbala, Teniji Similare Panjal, Teniji Similare Patne, Tanda Shaja Chimpi Mengoto, Samo Naruchu Mengotin to Hugh, Tenikong La, Jetin Malaripic, Long Tene, Tene Uchichu, Tohla Gombo Darjeru, Senkintella, Tacherang Densa Chona, Pe Sinchim Hambola, Pento Jachembo Yungio Sone, Long Ten Navarella, Tini Long Tembatarto, con Remji, Tini Tohla Gombola Pe, Tohla Gombola, Yukni, the Talami Long Tempe Damare, Tatnal Dejure, some Rejure Gone, Tene Tatanda, some kind Chunchun Jap, Tene Tanala, Lochosona. Tene drua japne yuji gonga tende chunga te yuji chunga gonne tene tai zamde pekala zamala khandro ma che jamne khandro ma ti ge long tin ne chusam drua se pa le chusam dodan se pa ga singi che tene long tin na warela chusam dodan se pa tene lo chusam la sa sha de tomban de la dodan se so yuna gonga Dabo chungare la, teni te la teni, loma chay indu, ni indu, teni te, loma tenzo mangpondu ne, loma gomchin shata, shaja chimbu ki tingin sen gomkay, shata chungare la, gomchin jeja, teni khor mangpo, somji mechapa, ta te tabo chungare la, teni ta te la teni rodan chungare.
The third example is Gampopa. He had a different way of life from either Marpa or Milarepa because he had gone forth. He was a monk. And so there are, and similarly, there are those who would like to practice, who practice Mahamudra, but who feel like they want to be monastics. And so they wonder, is it okay if you're a monastic to practice Mahamudra? And the answer is that yes, you can practice the instructions of Mahamudra, and if you do so, you can achieve the ultimate result. And the example of this is Gampopa. Gampopa first had gone forth to become a monastic, and then he met the yogin Milarepa. He received the instructions on Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa from him, and then after that, Milarepa made a prophecy. You should go to the central Tibet, to the mountain of Datla Gampo, and there at the great Dorje, Mountain Dorje, you should establish a seat. If you do so, you will help many sentient beings. And so, as Milarepa had prophesied, he went to Dakla Gompa, and when he got there to this, and as the instructions said, he came to this place, and he made himself first a small retreat house, and he thought to himself, I'm going to spend 13 years in retreat here. And so, thinking to himself that I'm going to spend 13 years, he made that resolution, then he went to bed. And when he was asleep, then he had a dream of a Dakini who came to him. And in his dream, the Dakini said to him, it would be better, instead of spending 13 years in retreat, it would be better to spend 13 years bringing benefit to beings. So Gampopa woke up in the morning. How am I going to be able to benefit sentient beings in such an isolated place out here in the boondocks here? How am I going to have, there's no one here. But gradually, first one student came, and then two students came, 3, 4, and then eventually he had this great gathering of great meditators who surrounded him, all of whom meditated upon Mahamudra. And so he had this great assembly of students that appeared. And in this way, he was able to bring great benefit to many sentient beings.
Je gombo pate tambo ko jewa yipika ne gongsa palbata ma impa tene chongchu sempa dawe yenuge tene ko jewa yiparela tene te ya dawe yenu chongchu sempa dawe yenu te temba zobu sonji jamden de yali yipika tene ne jalbu kap tene ro shagi pumbarela tene sanji jamden de ji ndo tingzin jalbo sungwarela ta di kapsula shongchu sempa dawe yenu te ten chimba yimbala tene tuji dongmenla ja chimbo yeba zobu sonji jamden de la tepa tong kupa samji majaba yeba tene te tanda ndo tingin zinji jalbo hyungkin rabo je chungwarela ndo tingin zinji jalbo te ta sonji korloma mambu ki la song korloma mambu ki la song ne tene thar tene sanji jamden de ji maung pa la ta sanji ji temba ma rimbi nyot hawa jogera nyot hawa jogera kapsula tene khande kal chegre se na do tin zin jar bote kal chegre tene ta ti maung pa la temba te pel ta ba maung pa la do tin zin jar bote pel ta ba kelengi soye sone tene twa na rela tene twa na kapsula Sonju sempa dawe yana dengue tene ya yene tene maung pala tene ngarange do tin zin jalbu kita te pelgi yen sone tene khalji yi tene ta te tar to khalji yi pa yendo do tin zin jalbu ke noni jo tene maung pala cho roheta sena ta tanda zangbo pene papa ke zangbo ke surla zangbo la tene rohetai lungdram la tene ge chongchu sem ge long soji sinki ge la jewa la ne tene do tin sin jar bote pelgre somne lungtin na yo arela ti lungtin na wa tarto tene tanda nyomi tabu haji sigre ta te kon te du tene emchin raboje nangi yo arela tene ta ti ge cherna do tin sin jar bu ge ta do tin zin jalbu ge tan de impe junsin de khande de se na choja chimbo gamba de thumo ma impe tingen zin de dangwa je re la ti tingen zin thong chi jalbo ta ba impe cherna do tin zin jalbu ge tan ya de ta bo impe cherna do tingen zin ji jalbo te pelwar khalji ye ba yendo tene tapo dawe gen la control ne tala gombo la densa tap ne choja chimpi tingen zen te perne tene te la choja chimpo te ngo tar tu tempa tang tene ndo tar tu tempa tang tene tang sunju ki jipa la tempa la sopa go ne tene me ngo samji ma chapa na ne tempa re la tene choja chimpi tempa te ta te la tene tarwa imbe cherna tene dojin chongjin telo naro to marba mala chuji gombo ba se tene rimba yentar je na re
Now, the reason that this happened is that Gampopa, when he took birth, actually was not an ordinary person. He was actually the rebirth of the Bodhisattva youthful moonlight. Now, the Bodhisattva youthful moonlight was during the time of the Buddha. The Buddha at one time was in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, and he taught the King of Samadhi Sutra. Now, the Bodhisattva Youthful Moonlight at that point was a householder, and he had great compassion, resolve, and great aspirations. And he also had incredible faith and devotion and respect for the Buddha Shakyamuni. It is he who requested the King of Samadhi Sutra. And so this sutra was taught in the midst of a great gathering of many students. And at the end of teaching the sutra, the Buddha said, so who is it that in the future the teachings of the Buddha will decline? And when the teachings of the Buddha decline, what is it that we need to do? It is these teachings of the King of Samadhi that are most important. And so who is it who will make the commitment, make the promise that in the future they will spread these teachings of Buddhism and of the King of Samadhi Sutra? And so the Bodhisattva Youthful Moonlight stood up on his seat and he said, in the future, I take the oath that in the future I shall be the one who will spread these teachings of the King of Samadhi. And so in that way, just as taught in the King of Samadhi Sutra, the Buddha prophesies that in the future on the banks of the river Rohita, there would be a monk called the Physician. And so in the same way, there is a place along the Brahmaputra River in Tibet that is called the Rohita. So this is the river Rohita, and Gampopa himself was actually first he was a doctor, so he was known as the unequaled physician Gampopa, or the unequaled physician from Gampopa. And so he spread the meaning of the King of Samadhi Sutra. Now, what is the reason we can say that he spread the meaning of the King of Samadhi Sutra? Well, he spread the particular instructions of the Samadhi of Mahamudra. And this Samadhi of Mahamudra is the king of all Samadhis. And so in this way, he taught the meaning of the King of Samadhi Sutra. And so just as was prophesied, he took birth as Gampopa, the physician from Dakpo, and founded his monastic seat at Dahla Gampo, and then spread the teachings of the Samadhi of Mahamudra. He taught the Tantra Mahamudra, the Sutra Mahamudra. He taught the union of the Sutra and Tantra Mahamudra. And so he taught the instructions on Mahamudra in an uncountable number of ways. And so it is from there that these instructions have spread. And so this is why the prayer begins saying, Great Vajradhara, Tilopa, Naropa, and Marpa, Milarepa, Lord of Dharma, Gampopa.
Tene ta te tabu shaja chimpi menwa te perne gamchin che prache samji ma cha pata tanda loju tamchi ke na gamchin je ja tende samle wa la tene gamchin je jina ne zo tabu te khamba masam se ne jongare la khamba masam ge sam te ta chitang tha rimbo ni phepa yin bichna ta tikapsal khamba masam shogi ware teni tinane khamba usse ta te tu samchemba te ukabuche yonda dawla te la tene khamba usse singe te da teni te yendo khamba dorjal se khongen sen la doji jalbo shogi yore la doji jalbo te sen duba se khamba dorjal se teni te yendo tanda khamba saltong shogam se teni hide ji shode ba je yonda dawla te la tene shogam se sen solwa re ta tika su gamchin tenzu ke sen tende ta ni ta hina ya gamchin ke zo ta ba je na ba som chong re ta tik durja hloma tham ji perwe kapso dangwa ke jipa perwe kapso la tene ta saltong shogam te zo mema indolu ke cherto tene chuji ta te pa ma jong tene ta te la tinani zo te la tene tanda khamba usela tene ta dujiga ma kangsong ko temba ta tene tanda khamba dorjalla tene tanda chongji jipate chongnen thar ta tanda je gombo pa ne rimba yendo la je undi che ye chong ji jipan za nom tong song ta che ye chong ji de rimba yendo ta khon namba so nyomlin nang kap sa la chitang nyomlin ge zo de kan de nang ge yore se na choja chen bo gong ge yore tela mengo ni de nen so la te si mandawa na wala tene ten loma chola yo dangwa cheparchi mandawa na wala tene tene che ye do chong ji che na wala la tene ta te ta bu ge jipate tene gomchi somchi ma chapa tene ramba yendula chambare.
So Gompa spread these instructions on Mahamudra, and he taught them to the 800 great meditators. Among the 800 great meditators, the three principal ones are what we call the three men from Kham. They came from Kham, which is a long way away, and so they were given the nickname of the three men from Kham. So one of them is the gray-haired Kampa, and that was Dusum Kempa, because at that point he already had gray hair. And then there was the Kampa Dorjal. So Dorjal is like a contraction for the name Dorje Gyalpo, and so they called him Dorjal. And then the third is Salton Shogom. So this means sort of like, I don't know, fish lip or hair lip, sort of a curled lip, curled off to the side. So they sort of nicknamed him based on that. So these are the three men from Kham, and these were the main of all the great meditators there. And so they all received the instructions, and among them, Salton Shogom primarily spent his time taming non-human beings, and so he did not have a particular separate lineage that descended from him. The gray-haired Kampa, Dusum Kempa, founded the Karma Kagyu, the practice lineage of the Karma Kagyu. And then Dorjal, it is from Dorjal that the 8 younger, here it's translated as lesser lineages, the 8 younger lineages eventually developed. And so in this way, there are the 4 elder and the 8 younger lineages that gradually appeared. And so they all did the practice of Mahamudra. And so what's the main practice they did? The main practice was Mahamudra, but because the teachers emphasized different aspects of the instructions and taught them in slightly different ways, there became different lineages of how they taught Mahamudra. And so in this way, there are many different, the students received many different instructions, and they developed these 4 elder and 8 younger lineages. And so these are the lineages in which there eventually appeared a great, uncountable number of great meditators.
Tene ta te tabu jipa nane ta jitang tenle jeba chunga re te yinaya tenle shindu jeba chunga te rito tsal som sen rigung tang tong tong tsalpa kaji te namba som te la pe ta tanda som jima japa tende chunga re la tene tanda ngaran so ge ta dangwa ge chaji chimpe ge menga ge jipa te kani chunga re se na ta kamba ose te kama pa kutin tampo tusum chempa ne zonte rimba yendola jipa na re la tene duji karma kamson se ta ti tsek jipa soma impa tenji jipa tene tanda tingen sen gomne gomba ngan tu chorne ta rimji tarwa re tene te ya tanda ta kama pa kutin tangpo ne kutin chudun pa parto tene shenlak jipa parma jipa zonda yung masi ta ti kui namba soso la tena yung tene tu ihi jungo jipa imba tene ta tanda tandi parto la tanda jaung kama pa kuntin chudin pa parto shenpa re la tege dongwa te ta tanda kontu hiupa yendo kama pa kuntin sumbien zepe shaja chimpe melom tene kuntin gubien zepe tanda chaja chimbu ge tri ngiren janso la so pata tenzo kon nambe ge song ngaran so ge te nyonle na teni nyonle na ne ta te pentu cheju yeba ta tindi chungari.
So all of these lineages really had vast and wonderful activity, but among them there are three that had especially great activity. These are the Drikung, Taklung, and Salpa. So there are a great number, an inconceivable number of masters in these lineages. Now, where do we get the instructions on Mahamudra from? We get them, they came to us from the gray-haired Kampa, from the first Karmapa Dusum Khenpa. So we have the instructions, and so it is from him that the practice lineage of the Karma Kagyu began. And in this lineage, it is not just a lineage of the words, it is a lineage of the meaning. They have passed down the meaning, practiced the meaning, realized the meaning, and manifested the meaning, and in this way it is spread. It is spread and it has lasted from the first Karmapa all the way down to the 17th Karmapa. The flow or the continuum of the blessings is unbroken in this time. Although the Karmapas all have different physical manifestations, their wisdom mind is the same. And so from now, up to the 17th Karmapa, we have these instructions on Mahamudra. And as I said before, these are taught in the aspiration for Mahamudra by the 3rd Karmapa, as well as in the Mahamudra instructions by the 9th Karmapa, such as the ocean of certainty and so forth. And so we can receive these, and we can read these and practice these, and they will be, and so we have this lineage of these practice, and this has brought us great benefit.
Tene ta te tabu ge jipa cheparchi yimbe cherna ta tanda shaja chimpo te shinap thopna. Tene shinap thopna, tene shaja chimpo tingen zente gom, tene shaja chimpo tingen zente gom be kapsula cherdo ngaranso. Nyam yo to jitop namba ni sungri yoarela. Nyam yo se do tene ta te yukne. San lang, San Janelu, Ngola Tani, Gom Japata. Teni Tetabu, Tusi Majunaya, Jihok Ginyamni Nani, Teni Tujundo, Droatan, Dupaton, Tam Nawata, Ta Kande, Gupe Kapta, which Inaya, Te Sam, Te Maimpa, San Jingo, the Maji, Padabu, Ngone, Teni Yamni Nang Tupna, Teni Ninsin Korunabu. Tene yapo zendu na top na pe pento chempo yungi yore la ta te chitang nyamsu lensul rel. Tene te ria topa na peru ki cheto la tene ngandro tomo ma ingpe ngandro la sopa nyamsu lene ramba yendo la nyamni nana ya pe yapo yungi yore. Ya te tabu kapka la tene tanda kwakap majung wanda boje yena ya shaja chimpi tingen zaytan shaja chimpi nelu tenzo majiba nana pe pento chimpo yungu yore.
And so this is the wonderful lineage that we have for the Mahamudra. This lineage is here. We can receive its blessings and we can do the meditation of Mahamudra. And when we do Mahamudra meditation, there are two parts to the meditation. There is the equipoise, and there is the post-meditation. So equipoise means when we're sitting in meditation, looking at the nature of the mind. Sometimes we don't have time to do that, and so we get up into the post-meditation. Post-meditation means that when we are walking or eating or having a conversation or whatever it is that we do, that we are just not distracted. Our minds are not distracted, and that we don't forget what the essence of the mind is. If we can practice like that, then we can practice all day and all night. We can practice 24/7. If we practice like this, it is very beneficial for us. And so this is a way that we can practice that will increase our meditation. And in order to do this practice, we have different parts of it. There are the preliminary practices. There is the practice of the common and the special preliminaries, and then the actual practice. And if we can follow this sequence, then it'll be very good for us. But even if we don't have the opportunity to practice in this way, if we can at least not forget the nature of Mahamudra, then this will be very beneficial for us.
Tene ta tela solwata pakasala jipan zno nomtar sinjilo si sungwarela jipan zain sena kandire sena dangwa tenso hyo dangwa te hyupa tsam da yo maya pa tene dangwa tenso nyams lang ne tene chetawa yin da nyams len ko gre so jipan zain namthar sinjilo se namthar se du chitang loju ndawo tela namba mandawa yo arela tene chitang ta kapkala jalbo chempo sung loju kapkala menhen ro jin sung loju ta tende yo patela loju segrela lo tela leka tende chebare lo tela pemban tende chebare lo ndala lo chitong guja ta ti la leka tende chebare sena loju se loju da bote hiadel te main pa ta tanda ngaranso jibu cheparjin tene tanda lama chin cheparjin ta tanda jesin malare pa ton gombo pala so pa tenso la loju shoge yore besina loju sege yomare tela namtar sege yore kon namba ga loju som hina pengre besina pengmare ta tela karigu besina namtar se pengre namtar sedu kandire sena number thar se kani tharna tene leda nyemon baton korwale thar tene ta tharwi junsen de kandire sena number tharwi jo kaha che bare te tharli jo kaha che bare tene jo tambi chu nyans long tene nyamlin den na tene tambi chu dangwa de laman den hyu dangwa de laman den hyu ne tene ta te khonam be nyams long be ndeta ndabo tela kari thambare sena ta kunganso tene sanya mo bal trol ta tende jon tharba tong tamjin chembe kompong top chogungu mi deta bu chungare sena namthar sinji lo se khon number tharbe lo jute ta ngaranso ni ngaranso tela jang ngaranso te drup ta tende khon number kandisi tombo number tharbe jo kha che bare tini number thalu kha che bare tini number thar ndebo kha tho bare ta te tar do ngaranso ya tangbo khandi gugendo khon number la pelan khon number tharba kin to ngaranso te tar do thar gu gi yorela nam thar sinji lo se saune ta ti cheje ga number ta sonde ga number ta tene ta ta loju ta loju ga number ta o se ne te na ware.
And so after this it says, grant your blessings. In this translation here, it's missing a little bit. It should say something, I hold your lineage, grant your blessings that I can follow your example. I hold your lineage. And so when it says, I hold your lineage, what does it mean by that? It means that when we receive the instructions, we don't just sort of put them aside. We practice them, we do them, and we follow them. And so that's what it means when it says, I hold your lineage, grant your blessings that I may follow your example. Then when it says, may I follow your example, what it says actually in Tibetan is, may I follow your liberation. So liberation here means means in terms of the life story. When we think of the life stories, life stories are biographies. If you're talking about, like a king or a president or some historical figure, then you say biography. The biography means that in this year they did this, and this year they do that, and this is the order in which they did all of these things, and this is, biography. But this is not what we mean when we talk about the life stories of great beings. What we mean is their liberation, because we don't need to know what year they did this or that. What we need to know is, what is the cause that led them to liberation? How is it that they practice? Where did they get their instructions? So, like with the great beings such as Milarepa or Gompa, but how is it that they achieved their liberation? So, what is it that they're freed from? They're freed from the karma and the afflictions and samsara. What's the reason? How is it that they were emancipated? What is the reason that they were able? What is the cause that they were able to emancipate themselves? The cause was that they practiced the Dharma. And so, how is it that they did this? They went to lamas. They requested instructions. They said, so the life story will tell you they requested this instruction from this lama. Then they went and practiced this instruction in this way, and then through that they achieved the results. And these are the signs of the result that they had. And so in Tibetan, when you talk about the life story of a great being, we call it the emancipation or the liberation of the life story. And so it tells how they eventually achieve the ultimate result of the supreme city. And so we can read these life stories, and when we read them, we see, well, what Dharma is it they practice? How did they get the Dharma? What did they do to practice it? What is the result that they practice? And then we can take that life story, that liberation, as our own example and say, okay, and I need to practice in the same way. I need to do this and that to practice. And so this is what it means when I said, grant your blessings that I may uphold your example. So I hold your lineage, grant your blessings that I may uphold your example. And so up to here, this is taught in a way as being an homage. In a way, it's a supplication, and also it's a way it's like the history of the lineage. Thank you very much. That's enough for this morning.